Good Tuesday morning, and welcome to Ice Age TV, the Internal Combustion Engine Age YouTube channel that talks about all my cars and trucks and motorcycles and SUVs, the campers, the dogs, the life, the challenges. Wow, what a beautiful, incredible fall morning. It's incredible how warm it is up in this Mid-Atlantic area. It's just incredible on how we're just being spoiled by, I guess, the global warming. I guess the global warming's happening, everybody, and I guess that is mankind creating it or is Mother Nature creating it? Wow, where's all the dogs, right? Where's all the energy? Where's all the noise? I mean, it's just such a different world for me. And to all those that reach out on my channel, support my channel, thank you so much for participating and all the support that you've given me through all the hardships that we've gone through, losing a dog named Keifer, which is just very emotional. But I just felt I should reach out on the YouTube community for all those that have been so supportive through these really challenging times for myself and family. And I'm sure for many that are subscribed to me that know the Keifer dog that was such a joy to all of us in our life, and just incredible. Just, we live in a physical world that you take for granted. But whatever you have today, you'll have tomorrow. And if you're a person that's been around long enough, you come to understand, yeah, it doesn't really work that way. That sadly, in this physical world we live in, everything you have today can be gone tomorrow. And if you really watch my channel, you can probably relate so much with me on that for your own personal challenges in your life. You've lost a loved one, whether it's an animal or a human, or you've lost one of your favorite things material-wise. And that's what's just so crazy for the loss. For me, on my channel, you know, talking about the loss of material things that have gone away that would only never even seen down the road, that the most important thing in our life would be an animal that would go away. And meanwhile, while vehicles are being taken away, you know, whatever, you can get another vehicle another day. But the animal side and human side, it's a whole different personal feeling, and it's much more challenging. And once again, I just thought that I have to really, I just felt obligated that I need to make a YouTube channel this morning, just reaching out to so many that have given me so much support for myself and for the family and for those that truly care about others, which is just huge. So it's an incredible, incredible to me to what what all the people that have reached out and have said their prayers. And sadly for Keifer, he didn't pull through, which is so sad, and it's hard. It's hard for all of us. It's something you have to come to terms with, and then we have to kind of realize we have to move on, and we can hope that something bigger and better will be replaced from what we lost. We can only hope that that's kind of how life plays out for us. Doesn't mean it will, but maybe it does. But it's just on how things played out with Keifer, and I got to give my wife a lot of credit because she's the person that really stuck to try to save him. Because when you take your dog to a ER, this one's called the veterinary emergency group, and that's a big operation. They have like 110 locations, and they're growing. And when you sit there and bring your dog in, and you know it already has leptos, they already know what they're dealing with, and they figure a bill, and right out of the gate, you're told for 48 hours worth of, taking care of the animal to see if they can save it is going to cost you $7,500. Once again, for my wife, I've been blessed. I'm blessed for the wife that I have, because she went out of her way to pay that. And the thing is, which is so intriguing and interesting about how we work in this physical world, if you're an individual and you're in dire straits, if you go to the ER, for the most part, they have to take you in and they have to try to save you. And they don't demand upfront monies. And in so many ways, they don't really know what the bill's going to be. But on the animal side, it's a different world. It's where you have to pay before they play. And it's just incredible how, for us individuals, us humans, and then the animals among us, and how it's a different way of how it's handled on the medical side. And so, I'm sure many people can understand that, because for an animal, for a person that gets so emotionally drawn into the loss or the potential for the loss of their animal, they're probably going to say, oh, yeah, if you can just bill me for that money. Yeah, I'm sure that most here would agree that if they had the operation operate off of, well, if we save the dog, you got to pay the bill or blah, blah, blah. I'm sure most veterinary emergency hospitals wouldn't be in business because they'd be chasing people for money, just like what goes on in our own health industry of people that go to the hospital that have no insurance, and then they have to chase the people for the money, and then people have to file bankruptcy, or they don't pay the whole bill, or whatever it may be. So it gets kind of, I'm just trying to radiate back to you and how it's a whole different world when you have an animal. It really comes down to, for me, if my wife wasn't involved, and they would have looked at me and they would say, we need $7,500 out of you, I would have had to step back and say, I don't know. I just don't know if I think that's worth it. And then some people would be like, well, that's just mean. Well, and part of me would be like, but what are the odds? What are the real odds of Keifer getting through this? And that's where you just can't really get. It's a business. I mean, and so in so many ways, since it's a business, they have to kind of just lay low on how much they can say. That they probably really want to say, yeah, for the most part, you're probably going to spend all this money and your animal's never going to survive, or if it does, it'll never be what you had. And then you feel guilty as a person to say, well, it's all about the money, which I don't have the money, and I'm going to have to let the animal be put down. Or it's the person that says, let me go borrow money to try to save my pet. And I'm sure there's many people out there that will watch this video that can relate with this type of circumstances. If you have animals, I'm sure you've gone to the vet, and I'm sure at some stage in your life, you've had this big bill put in front of you, and you have to make a decision. What do I do? So for my wife, I mean, I can't emphasize enough. My wife went out of her way to try to save Keifer, and we really did. And I went out of my way to be with him and try to get him motivated with anything in his life to bring back energy into him through going there to the hospital and just staying there all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and trying to bring happiness to him. And in some ways it seemed to kind of work. But sadly, the bacteria that got into him, it didn't work. And so meaning the bacteria overtook his body in more ways than we probably understood. And so yesterday, I really was more clear-headed, and I really was able to ask the doctor in more depth of really what's really going to continue to play out here. And that's where on their side, it's a very hard for them. It's a business. Once again, a doctor is a business. That's a very, in my eyes, that's a very lucrative business if you know how to run it right. You know how to put it in the right locations where people have money, which they do. This emergency group, veterinary emergency group, is in D.C., like in 8th Street. They just opened up that store that we were at just last year, and are opening another store in Chantilly, Virginia. And these people know what they're doing. They know how to make money. I would say they billed out this past weekend probably $100,000 in work, and just in 2 days. So I think that operation is a huge moneymaker. And the reason I say this is because this is going to be critical. It's not to be critical of them or their business, but once again, you really have to say to yourself, what's really where does the end come? And that's where I really started feeling from the third doctor. So Keifer had the first doctor that went in on Friday evening, and that one doctor, I actually never met that person. But that doctor took care of Keifer Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night. Well, no, Saturday night and Sunday night. And then, no, that's right, Saturday night, Sunday, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday night. And so then they had a shift that came to daytime where a whole new doctor came in, a whole new lady, Dr. Tori. No, not Dr. Tori. There was, the thing is Leopard, I think. So anyways, the whole point is this new doctor came in that took over the daytime 12-hour shift, And she definitely had a different personality. But she came across more like, yeah, it is kind of what it is. I felt kind of more like she knew in her heart that Keifer wasn't going to make it. But she knew in the business side, she had to be a business person and continue to see if we want to spend money. But what I did is I asked her, I said, if you don't mind me asking, how many years have you been with this company and doing this? And she said, 5 years. I said, okay. I said, but where did you come from? She said, well, I came from the Richmond area, and the lepto is very much more prevalent down that area. And in that area, so she's had a lot of experience. So that was, to me, was truly, that was a godsend, I think, for Keifer. Because she's seen this. She's been through it numerous times. And so then I kind of was able to dig a little more, I think, into her. And that's why I started saying to her, we got to look at the numbers, because we're all numbers. And we really have to see, what are the numbers? What's really realistic on how Keifer starts to pull out of this, or he doesn't. And if you're watching my channel, you'll see yesterday that, I get some water here. You'll see yesterday, I kind of talked about this, but on this video this morning, I can go a little more depth. But we really talked about the numbers, and so the numbers weren't really changing. His numbers changed really good from Friday to Saturday because they got him, on drugs and pain relievers, fever reducer. They got his vitals in better shape. So now when he's all hooked up, they really did a good job from Friday to Saturday of getting him stable. What's interesting is, had we not taken him to the vet on Friday, I don't know. Would have Keifer possibly, I don't think he would have just passed on his own. I don't think that would have played out instantly. He would have really started showing a lot more deterioration. So it would be inevitable we go to the doctor. But unfortunately, we got there too late. We probably should have been there with Keifer a week ago when we started noticing. It was kind of Tuesday, I kind of noticed he wasn't kind of like himself so much. And then Wednesday, and even my wife was mentioning, it's like Keifer seems to be subdued. He just doesn't seem to be himself. So it's kind of unfortunate. But at that stage, I don't know with lepto that, I just don't know if that really would have made the difference to save him in that time frame, that we were just maybe too late anyways. So, once again, now see, yesterday morning, Monday morning, when I was face-to-face with the doctor, and I saw Keifer, and I could see Keifer definitely was still in pretty good shape, but I could see that he really still wasn't in much better shape. So I just could see that another day had passed, he really wasn't doing that well. So now I'm talking to the doctor, and I'm really hammering her on the numbers. And I'm really saying, when could he actually come out of here? When would he actually be able to come out of here? And she's like, he'd have to be at a 4. But number 4 in the kidney range would be about him being on supplements. So he'd have to be supplemented throughout his life, and he probably wouldn't even be the same of who he is. She said maybe we could get to a 4. She said 6 is maybe releasable, but she said 4 would be the minimum for him to be at a number. And I was like, okay, but he should really be under a 1. He should be like a 0.05 or 0.08. So now I'm like, okay, so we looked at the numbers, and the key number she's looking at is a number that went from 24 to like 16 to then like 15 to then like 14. So we were seeing from Saturday to Sunday was a big jump. But Saturday night and Sunday morning, his vitals went through the roof again, and so all the numbers was skyrocketed. But then by Sunday morning, the numbers came back down, and that's when we got like the 15.8 reading over like the 16.4 reading. And so then yesterday morning, we did another blood work, and he came in like at 14 something. but she started seeing him having more of a heartbeat issue going on. So before they even got to the blood work, overnight, after I left yesterday, on Sunday, after I left Sunday evening, shortly after I left, he really kind of had a really hard respiratory. He really was very challenged on breathing. And then over the night, his heartbeat went up significantly. And then yesterday morning, he was kind of bouncing around a little bit with that. And so that's why I was really looking at the doctor. I said, okay, he's been here now since Friday night to now we're into Monday. And from really Saturday to Sunday to Monday, we're talking maybe 2 points difference on the key number that needs to be down to number 4, where we're right now at close to 15. We're like 14.6 or 14.8. And she's like, right. I said, well, how long would it take for him to maybe even get close to 4? She kind of had a look in her face like, maybe another week. I'm like, well, that's probably another $20,000. And she's like, yeah, probably. And I said, what's the odds of him getting to that, you think? She said, I can't answer that. I can't tell you that. That's your call. I'm like, yeah, but come on. How many people are walking out with their dogs after what you're witness to this dog? And she kind of looked at me like, well, it's not a high percentage. So then I went to the position, I think we're going to have to put him down. And then she kind of had more of a enthusiastic look on her face that was like, this guy is making the right decision. So I started talking about how this is going to be challenging. I think my wife may not support it. She maybe wants to try to make it go a little further, but I don't know. Because my wife will go out of her way to try to save an animal. And so I said, I don't know. I'm going to have to talk to the wife and see her thoughts and talk to Julia and blah, blah, blah. But then we started talking more just now. Now it's kind of like she understands that we're at the crossroads, that he's not going to make it, and we understand that, and we need to put him down. And so then she becomes a little bit more transparent, where she really is kind of just sharing on how, yeah, you really are making the right decision. I've seen this so many times, and I've seen people throw money like you never would believe into trying to save a dog, only for the dog not to make it. Or, if anything, the dog is never going to be what it was, and it's going to have to be supplemented and medicated, and it's going to have a long journey being such a young dog of a life that just isn't really right for the animal. So she really did start to open up like, yeah, he's not going to make it. You're going to spend a lot of money, and in the end of the day, he's just going to be, he's not going to be. So that's where I was like, okay, I really now feel like this doctor here has really seen this so many times and just knows that even though you want to throw money at it, it isn't going to fix the problem. And that's how we are as human beings in society. And it's incredible how we look at how we do things in life. And you think to yourself, there's third world kids right now starving. There's the homeless people in our country like never ever seen. There's so many problems in society with mankind. And it's incredible how mankind will go spend $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. I bet you there's stories of somebody spending $100,000 to try to save their one pet animal while people are in the streets and they're being sacrificed. It's incredible. If you really think about it, us humans operate on how we will go out of our way to save our animal, but when it comes to mankind, we'll be like, yeah, right, buddy. And I know there's a lot more to that. It's easy just to make that comment or gesture, but as a person, wow, it's incredible on how we get so emotionally attached to an animal that will about sacrifice anything to save it in so many ways. But when it comes to an individual human, then it's more complicated and not so much. Not so much are you going to bring the guy into the hospital. The guy that's out in the streets right now that's in dire straits, you see a person, pick that person up, bring him into the hospital, and then sign up to pay the bill to try to make him better. And once again, I know there's a lot more to that because animals have their relationship with you, your happiness, your spirit, your soul. There's so many things that a dog cat, whatever, a horse, whatever animal it may be, maybe a pig, could be a bird, it could be a rabbit, it could be so many different things that we as humans love about animals, that we get that emotional attachment, and that animal radiates back that you have a connection. And that's the thing about Keifer was, for me, even though I got Keifer for Julia to be a watchdog for her, which he never really turned out to be a watchdog. He really was more of just a companion dog, which didn't bother me because as time evolved, things changed in her life and opened the door for somebody else to be her guard dog, if you can understand what I mean by that. But the point is that Keifer, I never really saw Keifer per se initially really kind of be transitioned to being really kind of my dog because Julia spent so much time with him. But then as time evolved and her schedule changed and she wanted to have freedoms, then it really did kind of turn into that Keifer became more my companionship of a dog, and which then just really was incredible on how I really did start to have more of an interaction with Keifer and playtime with Keifer. And that was just really incredible about, and then Keifer really did start to come to be, in so many ways, attached to me. And Julia kind of sometimes was kind of upset about that because she could see that he wanted to stay with me over her. But at the same time, I was always like, it's our dog. It doesn't matter to me if he hangs with you. I'm always open arms to do whatever you want to do. But I know that you want to go play and go do things, and you're not home as much, and I'm home more than you are, so Keifer enjoys the time with me because I'm home, and I can play with him. And that's what's so really heartbreaking for me, is I just lost a true friend, and there's the wife. I just lost, my wife went out of her way yesterday to go see Keifer be put down, where she drove 2 hours from work, and then she picked up Julia midway working yesterday with Brian. They met, and then they went down to do the putting him down, and then we're having him cremated, and then we're going to have the box and blah, blah, blah. So my wife went out of her way and to settle up the bill, which now is over $10,000, which my wife, challenging. Yeah, did she have to put it on a credit card? Yeah, that was challenging for her. And so, yeah, she, thank God she had a credit card. She doesn't make that type of money to pay that type of bill. So anyway, so for Keifer and I, for me, the loss of Keifer, it's just so unfortunate because he gave me such the quality time when I didn't have Julia here, because Julia has always been home through her life with me. She's always been home. She's never really been the person that goes out and hangs out with all her girlfriends. And she's never been the person that is, just out going places and doing things with a bunch of friends. She's been much more of a home girl. And so we've always had very close times together because she's been at home. And we've been riding dirt bikes, or we've been riding four-wheelers, or we've been riding motorcycles. And so now that she's gotten older, which I knew was going to start to partake in my life, she then has branched out and now has a boyfriend. And she has her lifestyle where she wants her freedom. So she's not home like she used to be. So Keifer filled that void, even though I have 4 other dogs. But the other 4 dogs don't have that unique personality that Keifer had. Keifer had an incredible personality of companionship and playtime like no other dog I've had in recent times. I had a Dalmatian years ago that I was very close with, that went everywhere with me, worked with me. He was my best friend. And so I had a great relationship with that dog. But that was back in the 90s through 2008. So I had him from 1997 to 2008. He lived 11 years, had to put him down because he ended up getting radical cancer in the mouth. And that was another sad story. Had to put him down on my mother's birthday. That was 2008, where I was going down the dire straits of the whole 2008-9 country going broke, and I was all part of that crap, and just very dire straits at times, just terrible times. And so for me, I was like, wow, what the hell is going on? So for me, yeah, it's a huge loss of Keifer in my life because now I've lost a friend. Now, I'm sure most here will all agree at some point I can go get another dog, and I don't disagree. But at the same time, as you get older in life, it's just like, yeah, but until you realize how much time and money you put in to a dog, you don't get it. Now, what's pretty cool is Amanda, the Shepherd Works, she has offered to help us out any way she can, should she have another litter of German Shepherds. But that's nothing that's going to happen in any time soon. But that was very kind of her to reach out and share on how she's more than happy to do whatever she can to help us out, replace Keifer someday and one day. But then for me, the German Shepherd side, I mean, he was so aggressive. I mean, for Ginger, in so many ways, Ginger, I think, is happier than, I mean, I think the other dogs in some way are happier because Keifer was so confrontational with other dogs. It was a constant them getting mad at each other, and that's a challenge. And I know this. Once you have dogs that are, 2, 3, 4, 5, are older dogs, and you bring a new dog in, it's very challenging for them to acclimate. And for the other 4 dogs, they just never really did acclimate with Keifer. It was always a fight over the food. It was always, the dog, Keifer would go after Ginger and just about injure her. I mean, so there's a lot of things on the other side of the equation that you never really saw Keifer on his aggressive side, where sometimes I just wanted to beat the crap out of Keifer because he would hurt Ginger, because he would just go after her and nip her or do something. So on that side, that was always very challenging. And another thing is that the German Shepherds shed like crazy. And the other thing then you go to is I started hacking and coughing a lot in my life. And it just seemed like when Keifer came into my life, it seems like all of a sudden I started having incredible coughing and hacking. So it's going to be really interesting to see if as now time, progresses and we've swept the house, we've vacuumed the house, I've cleaned the trailer out, and his hair isn't in my environment anymore. It'd be very interesting to see, do I still hack and cough like I used to? And for me, sadly, it would be just incredible to find out that Keifer was actually creating my incredible coughing and hacking. I mean, I don't really think that was what it was, but when I was down in Florida this past summer, or even last February or March, I just can't keep track. A lot of people were saying that I'm allergic to Keifer. They felt very strongly that for me, here's my wife trying to call. You try to do videos, and Julie's trying to call me, wife's trying to call me, and the video's getting too long, and I'm going to have to cut it off. He said I got to go to work. But it's very interesting to think that should my hacking and coughing that goes on it starts to dissipate, then you just have to say to yourself, like, wow, what's going on? What just did something happen in my life for a reason? But I don't know. That's really deep. So I really couldn't come to closure on that. That's what's going on in my life. But it's really freaky is the big black literally were over the barn over here in the last few days. I mean, no lie. So it's like the weirdest thing started to play out around my property. These big hawks all were just kind of hanging out on my property. And then yesterday morning, this one bird started just, cooing or cawing, whatever you want to say. It was the weirdest thing in the world. Like, this is like the movies where this bird was outside my camper. And it was just going on and on of making this really, weird noise, like it knew. Like the bird knew that Keifer's time had come. It's the weirdest thing. I'm not lying to you. So a lot of weird things going on. But here's the thing. I got to go to work. And it turns into a long video because I can talk a lot. So we're going to leave it at that for now. We'll have more conversations about the dog and Keifer, and we'll just kind of leave it at that. And I'm more level-headed today because I've gone through the emotional roller coaster, and that's another thing you have to come to closure is if we had Keifer living another day, it would be another going down there, hoping and praying he's going to survive, and it just is an ongoing emotional roller coaster. And at some point, you just have to say, it just isn't worth it. It's just too much. It's overwhelming. So you have to just make the hard decision, which nobody wants to make. Wants to make a decision to put their animal down. Nobody wants to do that. And so if anything, We can only hope that we'll get through this. That's the whole point. So, hey, everybody, thank you so much for supporting my channel. You really have been a blessing to me for all the great comments, the prayers, the thoughts, and reaching out, and it's been incredible. So we just only hope the Ice Age TV adventures continue on, and what do we do, and how things play out, which, yeah, and today's a big election day, which I haven't even been focused on that. Just too overwhelmed with other things. So interesting times here upon us. So stay tuned for more adventures on Ice Age TV. God bless.